So I guess the best place to start is we've obviously seen the industry go bonkers since about kind of mid-November last year, I think it was. And the whole world seems to have taken hold of it. You know, ChatGPT has changed the universe forever if you look at social media. You've obviously been in the industry a long time. You know, you're a really sensible guy. What do you think if somebody's looking through the window at data science, AI, ML, what do you think is the realistic position?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and look, AI has been around for a while. And as you said, the last 6 to 7 months have really captivated like an audience here, and it's almost moved from research to public, like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, when 100 million users in about 3 months or so.
Mm.
And we haven't seen that before. And that explosion of innovation has kind of started this kind of flywheel effect of competition between a lot of the big tech organizations. When you also throw into that the open source kind of
Yeah.
crowd as well, and people building startups now. There's this whole continuing innovation, which is really difficult to grasp. What's going on here? Are we seeing a disruptive change? Now, you and I are old. Sorry, but we
Experienced, I prefer.
well, okay, let's use the word experience. But I mean, we saw something when the internet was coming about, and there was a lot of how does that work? And then there was like the just before the dot-com bubble. Everyone was rushing to build these very complex websites, but we didn't have the internet back then. We didn't
Yeah.
we didn't have the bandwidth to use those websites. When Apple released the iPhone, I mean, that wasn't the first mobile phone, but when Apple released the iPhone, there was an explosion of apps. So this feels like another explosion. It just feels like a larger scale because millions of people have access to the internet now. Millions of people have access to these mobile devices, and now they've got access to this incredibly interesting technology that suddenly feels like we've moved from Neanderthal-like technology in our homes, where I'm not going to mention the tech name, but can you turn on the lights or can you turn off the lights to really, really good conversational type AI.
Mm.
That feels very surreal. It's almost like we made a jump. Um, I mean, if you were looking inside out, you'd be like wondering, okay, look, I've been doing this for a while. Like, should I be should I be doing that because that looks quite cool? And so there's almost again this flywheel of let's get involved in this kind of tech.
Yeah. And I think one of the things you see is because it's at such an early stage, and I know it isn't, like you say, it's been around for a long time, but because a lot of people are seeing it for the first time, it's like they want to be the next expert. You know, it's the next big thing for them. So they're taking it on and they're talking about it, and it's just adding to the hype, I think.
No, no, absolutely. I mean, look, you have that a lot, right? With anything, and whenever there's a disruptive kind of element, you'll have people that talk a lot about it who haven't been in the field a lot, and they'll just be spreading more and more information. Some of it's good, and some of it might not be accurate. So which is no different to the tech, by the way. And we
Yeah.
can delve a little bit into that. But I mean, look, I think this element of and look, let me just give an example. So I'm probably the worst at drawing anything in my life. But now I can use a tool. I can type in roughly what I want. Draw a bird, make it look metallic, give it a robotic kind of theme, and suddenly now I can have something that's passable. I can now, provide 5 or 6 bullet points. Say, look, write me an email from these 5 or 6 bullet points, and it'll probably do better English than what I can articulate. So I think everyone's feeling this. Oh, this is quite cool. This is really, really, really quite novel. Now, here's the interesting thing for me and you, and we've been around for a while. We've helped organizations all over the world building stuff. Um, it's now we're having this kind of way of what are we solving with this tech? Like whereas before we'd always we engineer something or build something to solve a problem, but now it's almost like okay, what's the use case for this? And I think this is where we are right now, this flywheel
Yeah.
effect of lots of different things popping up, and then you're scratching your head and going, okay, is this a real problem? Are we really solving something? Is this going to help someone in their lives?
Yeah.
Does that make kind of make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I think so if you go back to like the Gartner hype cycle for I think it has quite a good view of the landscape at the moment. And one of the things that's on there is around AI and vision. You know, ability to generate things like images, but to understand them, to understand language, to be able to interoperate with them more effectively with a machine. And that technology works quite well, but it's a very limited set, I think, of actual genuine applicable technology. And like you say, it feels like there's some really amazing stuff, but what do I do with it? You know, and I'm on projects where we're talking about things that we could do, but it's quite hard to pin down something realistic. And obviously you have a lot of commercial experience in kind of where AI is being used. Are you seeing there is genuine projects being delivered in particular areas? So like my example I know is around the NHS, and say cancer screening has a really good application. Are you seeing particular applications of AI that are working outside of what everybody's jumping on, which is, hey, I can talk to this and get it to do quite often fun and silly things?
Yeah, no, no, look, absolutely. Look, AI has been around for a while, and it's again, I said it kind of over the last 6, 7 months we moved from the research into the public domain, but it's not new for us as well as consumers. I mean, it's the films we watch, the music we listen to, like Google Maps as an example. I'm picking on that, but like I can't navigate without Google Maps. There's AI involved in our lives, whether we realize it or not, but they've always been for a particular purpose. Now, if you talk about some of the businesses, they've been also using AI over a number of years, maybe not as much as they could have. But let's give some examples, like in telco, predicting kind of network degradation or improving quality of experience of telephone lines and mobile lines of 4G, 5G. In healthcare, as you said, and it was only very recently, like detecting cancer. Or if I give another example, I mean, creating new vaccines and molecules that used to take us decades, and now we're down to a fraction of time. Clinical trials, accelerating that so we can speed through the process, optimizing manufacturing. In finance, we've always had ways of detecting fraud without AI, but now, with the amounts of transactions that happen, one of the great things about the technology is be able to look at so much vast amounts of information and detect that in real time and then be able to do something with that. So AI across a number of different industries, there are so many different good use cases. But again, and I want to stress is it's not new. There's always been, this ability to solve problems using this great technology, but there's always been barriers about how do I go about doing that. And it's not like software, where software you and I would have, fired up an IDE, we would try and written some software, we would hard coded the rules. Now we're almost like what we're trying to do is we need to look at some data. What does a past look like? And then try and figure out, well, based on that, can we write algorithms that infer the rules, and then from those rules, can we do something with it? It's a slightly different paradigm as a software engineer would be used to. However, I would argue that a lot of the underlying technologies are identical. Like you're still going to need cloud, you're still going to need some kind of automation or DevOps or DevSecOps. You're going to need some way of monitoring and operationalizing this and deploying this, and then I would take it one step further. Regardless of all of this, what we see now today and what we've been doing the last few years, I always love what Steve Jobs talked about when he talked about tech. He would talk about, well, what are the problem we're trying to solve? Why is that a problem? How's the best way to do it? Then work your way all the way backwards to tech. And I think that recipe still works today, though
Yeah.
I would argue that some people forget that.
I would argue that lots of people forget that.